So my name is Bero, and today we are going to build together some automated tests using WordPress Playground. A bit behind why we are here and why we're working on Playground. So I spend my days as a Playground contributor. I build and maintain Playground. And while working on some of the things and just figuring out what's Playground useful for, like for me, the two biggest key points are Playground can start really fast, comparable to empty Linux machine to WordPress, and you can easily configure it during the boot process. And these things are extremely important for automated testing. And then, because of some of my history, I initially started working on Playground a year and a half ago, and I was doing a logging system for Playground. Then I was doing a lot of automated tests to check all of the core plugins and themes against Playground. And in the process, I figured out, first of all, it's really hard to test with Playground. But then I also saw, like, oh, there's a really nice function called run CLI. And if I just export that function, suddenly testing with Playground becomes extremely easy. Around the time applications for WordCamp Europe started, and I said, let's do a workshop. And here we are. Pointer? OK. So before we go through what are we doing today, just a disclaimer what we're not doing today. For testing, we're going to use a couple of libraries, Playwright vtest, and we're going to use GitHub Actions for continuous integration. First of all, I can't promise we'll get to everything, but I'll try. Second, I won't focus on all the libraries, because I'm not an expert on either of these. And the point of Playground is that you can use it with any JavaScript testing library. So I just chose these because I'm most comfortable with them. But you can try it out with Jest or any other library that you typically use. OK, so now, what are we doing today? First, of course, we need to set up our environment. We need to download the project, npm install, and all of those things that you do typically in a JavaScript project. Then we're going to export the Playground CLI, because the CLI is the actual tool that allows us to run Playground in Node.js under the hood. Next, we're going to build an end-to-end test just to see how to actually spin up Playground in a JavaScript environment and to run a test. And finally, we're going to move on to integration tests, which in my mind are the more interesting and complicated part of this workshop. And in the end, we'll just see all of this running in CI by pushing it to Git. And if we have some time, hopefully, a Q&A session. OK. Oops. OK, let's get started. I'll move on to my machine. Oh, I lost a slide. That's the most important slide. Give me a sec. Let's pretend this isn't Q&A, but this is Bero.dev. Of course, something has to go wrong. OK, so we need this link. OK, I'm spending time formatting now. OK, let's pretend this didn't happen. There should be a QR code here. Pretend it is there. Just go to bero.dev/WCU 2025. I'll leave it up for a second. This page should have all of the instructions so that you can just start opening links from there, that you don't need to go to a couple of different places. OK? All good? OK. Oh, yeah, sorry. If at any point you have a question or you need assistance, just raise your hand. I'll try to help with the questions. And Philippe here, he will try to help you out with your environments or any issues that you might have. Like, there's a lot of us, so also just try asking the people around you and form groups, because otherwise we won't be able to complete all of this. OK, so if you went to this link, you open this. Here are all the important links, so I'll just quickly open up a couple of them so that you have the context of what's important. This is the repository we are going to use to start. So first thing you can do is you can just git clone this onto your machine. All of the node modules are inside, so it's around 600 megabytes. So give it a second, but then you should be ready to go. And then below are all of the instructions, like the requirements. In our case, that's Node 2018, because that's the version that Playground supports as a minimal version. And then there's the typical stuff like npm install, npm CI, and all those things. I'll go through all them together with you later on. Next, if at any point you get lost or aren't sure how to do something, and I'm just rushing through the entire thing, go to this blog post. Everything should be listed here, everything that I'm going to say, all of the examples, it should be all written out. So that's a good way to catch up. And finally, the Playground documentation. For us, the most important part is going to be the blueprint section of the documentation. And in the end, the Playground CLI documentation. OK, let's get started. So first, I will git clone this into my machine. So my term, yeah. Yeah, that's in the browser version of Playground. We try to keep it as small as we can, but at the same time, you need to download a full. You need to download PHP. You need to download all of the PHP extensions that come with PHP, and then you need to download WordPress, and it all blows up to 36 megs in the browser. In the Node version, it's different because there we don't have the restriction because they're downloaded only once. So we give you everything. We give you all of the PHP versions, all of the WordPress versions, all of the extensions, and then it blows up to 600 megabytes. But once you have it, you should be good. OK, mine is finished, so I'll slowly start moving through the process. First, let me just move to VS Code, Playground demo. OK, that should be good. Let me open the built-in terminal. And I won't update VS Code right now. I'll leave this for later. OK, so thing number one, I will just check that my NVM is good. So I'll do NVM use. I'm good, but you can do NVM install just to make sure that you have the right version. There's an NVM file, so that is going to pull it automatically. Next step, npm CI. I prefer CI in this case just because it takes stuff from the package walk instead of package JSON, and we can make sure we're all on the same version. OK, and now, is the font? No, it's not big enough. Is this good? Last row. OK. So where were we? We installed, and now just to make sure everything is ready for us, let's do npm run test. Test 1 passed, test 2 passed. OK, we're good. If you're on Windows and you have issues with npm run test, there's two separate commands here. One is test integration, and the other one is test E2E. On a couple of occasions, I had issues with running npm run test in Windows. So if you have problems, just try running these separately, and it should work. OK. Did you get it downloaded and running?
Yeah, there was a problem with browser type.launch executable doesn't exist. Looks like playwright test or playwright.
Oh, sorry. Thanks. Yeah, I forgot the step because yeah, I have Playwright.
You already have it.
Yeah, it's easy for me. npx Playwright install with depth. It's listed here in the development setup. yeah, just run this, and this will make sure that you have everything for end-to-end tests. OK, are we good to go? OK, no complaints. A couple of nods, we should be good. OK, let me now move this a bit, and let's get ready. No, OK, so we need the terminal first, and the README. So inside the README, below all the setup stuff, there is a section on what we're doing. So the first part, as I said, we need to just get started with Playground. And all of this here, even though it looks like a JavaScript thing, it's actually a typical WordPress plugin. Because our goal here is for all of you to be able to start using Playground in any of your projects. It can be a full WordPress site, a plugin, a theme, or whatever typical WordPress project is. The plugin does only a few things. So the main file just requires an admin PHP and API PHP. The admin PHP loads an admin page with a simple form and a list of messages. And it, of course, has some jQuery to submit a form. On the flip side, there's the API. It's just one message endpoint. It accepts a new message. It modifies the message so it's ready for the response, and then it saves it in the database. If everything goes right, you get a success response. If it fails, you get an error. And that's about it. OK, so now how do we go from having these PHP files to having running WordPress? To get started, we're going to do npx at WP Playground /CLI. And then I'll just do -- help. And I'll expand this because this. OK, so the Playground CLI is the best way to use Playground locally as a node environment. And the help command is the current up-to-date documentation. So whenever you're working with the CLI, I suggest that you go here and figure it out from the help command. OK, there's 3 basic ways of running Playground CLI. Server, this is the one we are going to use. You can run a blueprint, and you can build a snapshot of your site so you can reuse it later on. OK, so let's go and start a server. Give it a second. That's it. WordPress is running. If you go to the page, typical, regular WordPress, we go to WP admin. The secret password is password. And after we log in, everything is as you might expect it, except that our plugin isn't here. So how do we get the plugin into the actual site? Is by mounting it. To do that, we are going to call mount, and then we are going to specify the current directory, use a colon, and then set the path where we wanted this to end up. So in Playground, everything starts with the WordPress folder. Just like, for example, in Apache or Nginx, you would typically start off with inside var HTML, and then your site would live in there. Inside Playground, it all lives inside the WordPress folder. And then, because I have a plugin, I'm going to just do WordPress WP content plugins, and then Playground testing demo, which is the name of the plugin. And now the current folder is going to be mounted as a plugin inside WordPress. So let's give it a second. And let's see where we got. So I need to log in again after reloading, and the plugin is here. If I activate the plugin, it works. It's not the most fancy plugin, but that's enough for us. OK, but if you've noticed, I ran through it maybe too quickly. I had to activate the plugin manually. And you kind of don't want to do that if you have a local environment and want to keep testing and reloading it every time. So we want to configure the site during boot, which is the second important piece for me about Playground. Sorry, this isn't the right screen. This is the one I want. Okay, so with Playground, to configure your site during boot, you are going to we use blueprints. They are sorry, let me open it up. So blueprints are JSON files that give you the ability to configure Playground during boot, and you can do stuff like set the PHP version, set the WordPress version. You can log in the user, go to a specific page after starting. Some of these are browser specific, but you get the point. But you can also have various steps like installing a plugin, downloading a zip, manipulating the file system, and so on. And this is what gives us the power to prepare your environment in the exact way you need. And then you can use that blueprint to spin up it in the browser, to spin it up locally using Node like we're doing, or to run tests. And in each of these scenarios, so like these 3 different environments, you're always going to get the same WordPress at the beginning. So in our case, we are going to use only a single step, and that's activate plugin. I'm just going to copy it from here and create a new blueprint JSON file in the root directory. Blueprint JSON. Okay. Let me move this a bit down, and let me do this. Okay, so in our case, we actually need only 2 fields. We need a step field, which says which plugin are we activating, and we need a path name. The plugin name is used in the browser version when you're loading WordPress just to display a loading message. So we can skip this one, and then we can copy the exact same path from the mount command. And that should be it, I think. Okay, or yes, no. Let's also add the exact plugin file because it needs to be pathed to the plugin file name. What's happening? Okay. So playground testing demo.php. So activate plugin, path to the PHP plugin file. And then I go back to my terminal and I do blueprint equals, and then I just specify the blueprint path, which is in my case in the current directory. Okay, and now if I go back to the site, reload it, login, it works. The plugin is active. Yes?
Can we also add the mount to the blueprint application?
No, blueprints in this version don't support mounts. Mounts are specific to your local machine, so, and blueprints need to be universal between environments. Okay, yeah, this is probably a good point. Are there any questions? Okay. Did you get it run?
Show the URL.
Sorry?
The blueprint you showed me.
Oh, no, I can't use this. Okay. Does anyone need any help? Philip, could you go there? Thanks. Okay. Are we good to move on to doing tests? Okay, I'll give you a second. Just a quick reminder, if you prefer to copy-paste on the blog post, all of the snippets are there, so you can just quickly copy-paste it as well. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Before we were running, in the local environment with the
and
Thank you. We don't need Docker anymore.
yeah, and that's
Awesome, because you spend a lot of time just creating the WordPress installation and, you know.
Yeah, so a big selling point of Playground for me is the fact that suddenly you don't need to have a local server running either on your machine or in Docker or go through any of these steps. You just run a single command and WordPress is running.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Shouldn't the CLI server detect the default blueprint JSON automatically, and shouldn't we just have to specify it in the command? Like if there is a blueprint JSON, it should use it. I was thinking, whenever you run npx wp playground /CLI /server, now you have to specify -- blueprint equals blueprint JSON. But blueprint JSON is kind of like default blueprint file. So if this could just detect.
Oh, you mean it's a suggestion? Okay.
Yeah, it's just like, blueprint JSON is there. You don't have to specify -- blueprint equals blueprint JSON because it's default. So
yeah, that
would make sense.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
Thanks. Recently, we also added the ability to auto-mount specific types of projects. Like, for example, this plugin could be just auto-mounted.
So it's very similar to like the other CLI thing that's working.
Yeah, similar to WP Now.
WP Now, yeah, exactly.
But WP Now is deprecated.
Deprecated, okay.
Okay, yeah, this is the official announcement.
Okay.
Sorry, default password. Password. Okay, we should probably keep moving forward because, okay, yeah. Yeah, but
Does it destroy? I mean, is it permanent the Playground that you are running?
No.
Or?
So by default, Playground is temporary.
All right.
So between every run, Playground is going to be completely restarted. You're going to get a fresh database, and this is why Blueprint is also important because if you need something custom, if you need to load some data or anything, you can specify that in the Blueprint.
All right.
And then you get a fresh start every time.
Okay.
If you want to keep a persistent side, because, for example, if you have a local development environment you're using for a long time, you don't want to run the Blueprint every time, you can just say, OK, I want my database file to live in this location. You mount it. It gets stored on your machine, and then every time you restart Playground,
all right,
you just keep getting it back, similar to if you have some uploads or anything else. So you can just mount things.
Okay.
If you would mount a full WordPress site instead of just a plugin, then everything would be stored on your machine, and then as you restart, you would keep getting back the same thing.
Do you know if with Blueprint you can set some data, some initial data? For example, if we have a WooCommerce or we want to have like a setup of products and making some tests with that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of options. So where were we? It's the steps. And let me... Is this good?
Yeah.
OK. So you can do stuff like, let me just find all of the options. So you can import a WXR.
All right.
You can import WordPress files, and then if teams have the starter content, then you can just use this. And then you can just do more, let's call it manual stuff. Like you can set options, you can set the language. You can just download the zip and then extract it to the location you want it to end up in.
Nice.
Or you can use WP CLI.
Okay, thank you.
But if all this fails, you can just go back to running PHP. Or if you prefer SQL, you can also run SQL.
I'm sorry, just last question. Can we also import our own database for starting the test?
Yeah, so the only thing about Playground is the database is SQLite. So if you want to import a MySQL database, you should either do it through a WXR, or ask me later and I'll figure it out because I don't have the answer up front. But yeah, the database by default is SQLite. So for example, what you can do is, what I do at least, I start Playground locally. I mount the WP content folder. There's WP content /database to my machine. Playground saves the initial database into that folder on my machine, let's say desktop. And whenever I keep coming back, the same database is loaded. And then once I'm ready with the database, I just push it somewhere, and then I import it through the blueprint. Yeah, a lot of these things are manual, but like, there's a lot of flexibility. So sometimes it's like 5 different ways of doing the same thing, and it kind of depends on your use case and whatever you prefer. OK, so let's get back to where we were. Let me open the README file. Let me hide the terminal, and let's see what we got. So we have a local development environment running. We can mount our plugins, and we can configure the site using blueprints. And now it's time to write some tests. For this demo, I thought that we could start with the easy stuff, which is end-to-end tests. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm using Playwright here just because I'm comfortable with it, but you can use whatever JavaScript-based tool you want. Technically, you can use also other programming languages, but then you can't use the JavaScript portion. Like, then you can't call it from JavaScript, you need to call it from the command line. The Playwright setup is default, out of the box. I just removed some of the things to make it smaller, but there's nothing Playground specific in the setup. The same applies to vtest later. I'm mentioning this just to tell, like, there's really nothing special about Playground here. It's just like a default Playwright for end-to-end testing. So I have an example file here. Let me just rename it to admin because we want to test if the admin UI loads. And let me actually run the test. So how you do it is npm run test e2e. The difference is that this is going to spin up this interface from Playwright, and then you can see what's happening with your test inside the interface. This is good for debugging purposes, but I hope we won't need it as much. OK, so how do we get from this to testing the actual admin interface in our site? Our goal here is going to be really simple, but where's the site? The site is here. So our goal is, oh, I killed the Playground. Give me a sec. OK, I want npx. I want this, and I'll just leave it running in the background. OK, log in. OK, so our goal is just to check if workshop tests title is present. Once you're able to do that, then you can do all the typical Playwright stuff, like fill in the input, submit stuff, go between pages. Like then everything becomes Playwright. And again, like we don't need to go here into Playwright specifics. So we want to just make sure you can actually get started with Playground. OK, so if we take a look at this, the first thing you see is you need to go to a page. How do we go to a page? So let me just do this here. Let's say admin page. And now our first goal is to run Playground. So I'll do this. The first thing I need is I need to import run CLI from the Playground CLI package. And then what I can do is I can do const CLI equals await, and then I need to await run CLI. And then I need to literally copy over what we did inside the command line here. So first thing I need to do is I need to specify my command, which is server. The next thing I need to do is I need to mount. And then I specify my mount slightly differently. So I say my host path, again, is this. My VFS is virtual file system. Path is the WordPress. Let me copy it because I'm lazy. It's actually going to be quicker to type it. WordPress WP content / plugins playground testing demo. Playground testing demo. No, playground testing demo. That's enough. Okay. And the last thing we need is we need to run our blueprint. To run the blueprint, we actually need to read the file and then return back and pass the JSON to it as a JSON object and not just pass a string. So to do this, we'll just use some stuff from fs and pat, and we'll do const blueprint. It's really hard to write code without AI these days. So I'll just do this. JSON parse. And then what do I want to parse? I want to parse a file that I read. I'll use read file sync from fs. So I need to import it from fs here. And then I'm going to use resolve from pat. Again, import it here. And then I'm going to resolve the path exactly as I did in the CLI. Blueprint JSON. And finally, read file sync requires a second argument, which is UTF-8 in our case. Okay, so if I got everything right, I'm specifying the path to my blueprint JSON file, I'm reading the file, and then I'm parsing the JSON. And now, in the end, I can just say blueprint. Okay, and that's the important part of this workshop. So how we can go from your project to the CLI, and then starting the CLI inside JavaScript. Okay, so how do we make this useful? Let me do this because I assume some of you will try to copy this. So we first need to figure out what's our path. I'm going to expose a couple of functions here. So I'm going to expose a server, sorry, not a couple of functions, a couple of objects. And I'm going to do the CLI server. I'm just doing a couple of helpers to make it more clear and to help myself. Then I need to get access to the request handler, because how the CLI works is when you start the CLI, you get an Express server, and the Express server is what's accepting the incoming requests. Under the hood, Express forwards all of those requests over to Playground using a request handler that's built into Playground. And the request handler literally accepts a network request. It understands, okay, like these are the headers, like this is the actual URL it's trying to get to, and then it knows what to do with that request. Like if it's image, then it knows to pull the image from the file system. If it's a PHP request, it knows to go off to WebAssembly to actually execute the PHP. And we don't need to actually send stuff over to the request handler because we have Express in front of our server. But by getting access to the request handler, we can get the absolute URL and some other things. So in this case, I'm going to call it handler, just to keep it short, and then I'm going to say CLI request handler. Okay. Next thing. I won't need it now, but I'll need it in a second. So let's get access to PHP. I'm going to do this. I'm going to await the handler and then ask the handler to give me the primary PHP. Now we can run PHP from JavaScript. Okay, and now it's actually time to construct the URL. So for the URL, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a new URL. And then I need two parts. The first part is I need the relative URL for my admin page, which is wp admin, admin PHP, page equals workshop tests. But this is a relative URL, and to get access to to actually ping the running site, I will ask the request handler to give me the absolute URL. So now the URL should actually be localhost something something, WP admin, admin PHP, and so on. And if everything works, we should be able to do this. We should be able to say URL to string. So we're going to the page, and then on the page, we expect it to say workshop tests. OK, easy enough. Let's go here. I'll just reload this to make sure it's all ready. And let's see what happens. We got the login screen. So good part is this means that WordPress is actually running and loading. So Playground is working, and we got it to work through the CLI. The bad part about this is that we need to actually get access to the admin area, so we need to log in. In a typical Playwright setup, what you would do now is you would find the input, then you would add your admin name, then you would add your password, and then you would click the button to get in. First of all, that means that you need to store your secret password, which is password, inside your code, which you don't want to do. But also, it's just extra manual work every time. And Playground makes this easy. So instead of us doing all of the manual stuff, what we are going to do now is we are going to call Blueprints to help us. And we're going to say, I want to import a login. And I want to import it from the Blueprints package, which is WP Playground Blueprints.
Couldn't we just add this step to the blueprint JSON file? Would it work?
Unfortunately, no. It's a bug report that we need to fill. But also, this approach actually allows you to toggle between non-admin and an admin. So putting it in the blueprint depends on what you would prefer. Yeah, but ultimately, yes, there is actually a login argument in the CLI, and it's broken. OK, so let's get back. So before we go to the page, we are going to await a login. I imported just something which I don't want, but I'll remove that later. The first argument for me is PHP, and then the second argument is only the username. We don't need a password. WordPress will figure it out and log us in without the password. And that's it. So now we run the CLI using JavaScript. We pass the blueprint. We mount our current project. We get access to all of the helpers. We construct our URL. We log in the user, and then we execute our Playwright test. And then finally, just to not slow down your machines too much, what you should always do is you should end your test with await server close. Otherwise, you're going to accumulate 1 million servers, and you don't need that in your life. So we're now using the server from the CLI, and they're just a helper function to close this. This is going to stop PHP from running. This is going to close the request handler, and then ultimately kill Express.
Can you repeat the import login?
Yes, it's from WP Playground Blueprints. OK, let's see. Worked. We got a green check mark, and we can see the interface is actually showing the page, and that's it. OK, I'll go back to the code, and I hope this is a good spot. So as I mentioned, now you could go further, and I initially planned for us to click the input, then add some text, click the submit button, check if the message is there, and all of those things. But we have only, 35 minutes left, and we still need to get to the hard part. I assumed it's going to be, so I assumed for this to be a good stopping point. And then if you want to work more with Playwright, go to their documentation or just use AI because AI writes really good Playwright tests. Unfortunately, I'm skipping AI today, so it won't work for me. Okay, any questions? Okay. Do you need this to stay for a moment? Okay.
Just one question of the use of Playwright, because could it be used in order to analyze a plugin and scan for any malicious code in the front end or in the headers? Like,
how would you scan for malicious content?
well, I'm not sure that was part of my question. If it would be possible to get like the HTML response and then look for, I don't know, malicious scripts or addresses.
So you can do this in two ways. One would be, so Playwright exposes an API to you, which then allows you to analyze the HTML to get a specific tag inside the HTML and do all of those things. But Playwright requires you to spin up a browser. So it has like a lot of extra overhead, which you might not need to run tests like this. Maybe a better example of doing this would be using the integration tests we're going to get to now. Because the integration tests actually send network requests or just execute PHP. And then you can get back the entire HTML page. And then you can just parse it using your typical tools.
Yeah, just maybe another question, but also like just to add to whatever Bero is explaining here. This whole thing with the server and everything and running WordPress probably is best suited not to put in every single test, as Bero showed. Obviously, this is demo, so it makes sense for this. But you would put it like in before all or before each, depending on your need. Playwright also nicely documents this. So you just put it in a hook, and it just runs once before all the tests, and then it closes afterwards, after all the hook too. Yeah, just as a Playwright specific suggestions too.
So we'll get to this in the integration test part, but the overhead of starting Playground, like restarting it, is around 1 second, and I feel like that's too much for each test, definitely. But it's good enough if you have like bigger batches of tests, because then losing 1 second like, isn't actually that bad. And there's also a way to speed it up, but you're getting towards the end of the talk, so we'll get there. Okay, any other questions? Okay, then let's move on. So before we close this file, I'm just going, okay, now I'll leave it for a second. So let's go back to our README. What did we do? We created an admin page test. We checked that the page loads, and then we didn't do the remaining two things because we want to save some time. And now it's time to move on to integration tests. Okay, I'm closing this one. So our first integration test is going to be just to check if the plugin is active. I want to do this check because, first of all, if your plugin fails to activate, that means that you definitely have a problem. Second, it's a way to show you how to actually test PHP function calls, which are specific to WordPress. So let's get started. I'm going to rename the example test to, I'm going to call it API because we're going to eventually get to API stuff. I know the naming isn't best, but names are usually the hard part. Okay, so now, as David mentioned, we need a before all, and we need a after all. And then I'm just going to do this for a second because I'm lazy and I want to copy paste. So what we're going to do now is we are going to copy the exact same approach that we did for end-to-end tests into the integration tests and spin up Playground. Again, like that's the actual key point. So we can copy all of this into a before all. So before all, it's always async, and I always forget that part. That's it here. So, and I'll just copy all of these things. So yeah, let's start with a lot of copy pasting. Again, loading the blueprint, starting the CLI, everything is exactly as you've already seen it. But now these commands which I need, I'm just going to expose them as let's here. So the let server, what do I need? I need a handler. I also need let PHP. We'll actually use PHP pretty soon. And then I'll also expose a let API URL just to make our life easier down the line. Okay, and then again, just doing the same thing over server. Then I'm going to use the CLI. What am I doing? CLI server. I'm going to do the handler and then say that the handler is CLI handler. You get the gist, and then in the end, I'm just going to get the PHP. This would already be done with AI. Sorry, I'll keep complaining about not having access to it. Okay, and then in the end, after everything finishes, we always want to kill the server. Wait, no, sorry, it's async. And then we want to await the server to close. Okay, should be good to go. It's also probably worth for us to, just to make all of this easier, I'm going to just do this PHP request handler. We're using TypeScript, so let's get the benefits from it. Sorry, I just want to acknowledge the moment that we're actually using a PHP type inside JavaScript. Sorry, I'm still always amazed by this with Playground. Okay, so let's start some PHP. So first thing we want to do is check if plugin is active. Okay, we'll leave our true for now. So how do you check if a plugin is active? The simplest approach is by calling is plugin active from WordPress. It accepts the relative plugin path. So in our case, playground testing demo / playground testing demo.php, and it returns back true or false. How do we do that? We run PHP. So we do const result equals, and let's await, and then let's say PHP dot run. What do we want to run? We want to run some code. As always, don't forget to open PHP. Okay, so what this doing under the hood is it takes the code from this snippet, it creates a PHP script, and then it executes that inside WebAssembly. That means that this PHP script doesn't have any context of WordPress. And then to get context of WordPress, you would do something like require once, and then you would require the WP load file, which in our case lives inside WordPress / WP load.php. Okay, what did I get wrong? Oh, I'm missing an async here. Okay, and now we just want to check if the plugin is active. So let's echo. And I'm going to do a JSON encode. I'll explain shortly why. JSON encode. And then I want to return back is plugin active. And then I want to check the plugin, and in our case, that's Playground testing demo. I'll just copy it over. Playground testing demo.php. Okay, I can now close this one. I took everything I need from it. So what's happening? We are running PHP. We are running this script. The script loads WordPress to get access to all of the WordPress functions, the context, and everything else. And then we run is plugin active, check if the plugin we loaded is active, and then we wrap all of this in JSON encode. So why JSON encode? Because here I'm going to do result.json, and then I can test it against true. If I would just echo the response here, first of all, I would get it as a string. Second, depending on your script and depending on what runs inside WordPress, this is actually going to load WordPress and then load your code. And if a random plugin has a warning, which is printed to the screen, it would end up in your output. By doing this, you kind of just get a cleaner output. Okay, so we need to actually try this. I'll put it back on the screen again in a second. So instead of running end-to-end tests, we are now going to do npm run test integration. Yeah, that sounds about right. And let's give it a second. The test passed. That's it. So we loaded PHP, we loaded WordPress, we checked if our plugin is actually active, we got back a response, and then we validated all of that in JavaScript. Now you can use this approach for any type of integration testing when you need to execute PHP. You can technically also use it for unit testing, but PHP unit is a really good tool, and I'm definitely not advocating for rewriting everything from PHP unit over to Playground. But with integration tests, like there might be a use case where you actually want to start using Playground.
Can you comment out the line where you activate the plugin and can we see this fail?
Yes. Do you want to comment out the mount or the activate? You choose.
Let's comment out activate.
Okay, so
It's there, but it's not activated.
okay, activate is inside the blueprint. I'm going to disable the blueprint and failed. And it failed with, oh, wait, where's my terminal now? It should fail with a false. Yeah, that's it. Good point. It's easy to write a passing test. Okay, let's get back to the test. Passed. Okay, we have 20 minutes left. I'm thinking what to do now because there's a few things I still want to show you. So let's just go back here. Okay, so we checked that this works. Now we want to test the REST API. So at least in my experience, when it comes to testing the REST API, it becomes problematic really quickly because especially if it's endpoint that requires permissions like the admin pinging the API endpoint, that means that you need a nonce, you need a cookie, like you need a lot of things. And then you suddenly start mocking things, you start disabling your security, and like your tests like slowly start degrading towards unit tests. But again, with Playground, you can actually run real tests as a real user and not mock anything. So let's try testing our REST API. Wait, I had it here. So our endpoint is WP-JSON PTD v1 message. It accepts a post with message form data, and then it stores that in the database. Okay, so API should fail. We actually want to fail now. Async. And then we want this here, okay. And I had a helper up at the top, so I'll just fill it in now. So I created like an API URL, and then I'm going to do the same thing I did with with end-to-end tests where I created the new URL. So I'm going to use the handler, and from the request handler, I'm going to get the episode URL. So now the URL is going to match the actual running site. Okay, how do you test an API endpoint in JavaScript? You use fetch, const, response, equals, await, fetch. I'm missing something? No, it's good. So API URL to string. Okay, and we said that we need a few things. So it's method post. And then we need a, comma here, and we need a body. For the body, let me just copy paste this because it's the standard form data. Okay, I'll just write it. Const form data equals new form data, and then I'm going to do form data append message hi, and then I'm going to pass my form data over to the request. Okay, so now if everything goes right, this is going to fail, and we expect the response status to match or to be, that's also good, for 1. I'm also going to do this. I'm going to console log, and I'm going to console log the response JSON, just so that we can see what we get. Again, this is regular fetch. There's nothing Playground specific here besides the initial starting of the server. Okay, both tests passed, and you can see that during the second test, we got back a REST forbidden response. Okay, we have 15 minutes left, so I'll stop for a second if you have any questions.
My blueprint is failing when I run the, I don't know if it's for the path or something, but when I run npx with the blueprint is failing. I don't know.
Philip, do you mind taking a look? Thanks. Sorry, could you give them the mic?
I don't know, is it the right time to ask questions? So I wanted to see if we can add the whole setup to a CDCI GitHub action, and we run the test before the deployment.
Let's do that. WCEU, and I probably had this branch, so let's do just something random. New. Okay, and now let me go here. Let me, sorry. Oh, the messages are going to be terrible. Let me just push the code. We'll get to the actual code in your question later, but I pushed it so that we get some results. But yes, we'll get to that. Okay. Where were we? Okay, sorry. Any other questions? Okay, so let's get to the fun part. It's easy to fail an API request. Let's succeed. So I'll just copy the exact same thing over, should pass, and replace this with 200. Of course, this is now going to fail because it's the exact copy of the previous test. But how do we get this to pass? So I mentioned it briefly. So for REST API request to succeed, and in our case, the REST API requires, I should have probably shown this earlier, it requires permission that the current user can manage options, typical meaning an admin. To do this, you need to obtain two things. You need to obtain your nonce, and together with that nonce, you also need to pass the correct cookie over to the request. WordPress compares both, checks if you're the right user, and then if everything goes well, you get a response. So how do we do this here? Before we actually do anything, I will ask for some help from a library. Fetch from Node doesn't support cookies. Cookies are a browser concept. But there's useful helper libraries which enable you to have a cookie store within Fetch. And because we really need cookies here, we are going to use that. There's like also ways around that where you would actually get a cookie back and then you would pass the cookie, but you still need the context between the servers. So this is, for now, the best approach that I found. So I'm going to import make fetch cookie from fetch cookie, and then I'm going to create a fetch cookie object. Sorry, it's a function. And it's literally fetch, so all the arguments are the same, everything behaves exactly the same as fetch, except that it has a built-in cookie store. Okay, so let's go back to our test. And we said that we want to test the pass. So let's get our headers. So we want to await, get out headers. And then we want to pass it the handler, and let's also pass it PHP. Yeah, it should be good to go. And then in the end, we want to just pass our headers over to the request. So if everything goes as I hope for it to go, we are going to get the headers in the function, then we're going to pass the headers over with the fetch request, and magic should happen. I will come back to the fetch later. So now I'll just go back to the top, and I'll do this. I'll do const, and I'll create a new function. I'll make it async. It will accept a handler, which is a PHP request handler. And then it will also accept PHP, which is PHP. Okay, and now, okay, so what do we need to do? In the previous example where I showed you how to check if a plugin is active, you would just run a PHP script, meaning that that script would run completely without the context of a network request. But because here we need to deal with cookies, we actually need to run network request. And in order to be able to do this, we need to create a new PHP file in the server, then use fetch to ping that file and get a response back. This way, we are going to get the valid nonce from the response, and the cookie is going to be stored inside the cookie. Sorry, inside the cookie store. So let's. I'll skip ifs. So what I want to do is I want to create a new file. To do this, I'm going to use PHP, and I'm going to say write file. I need to specify exactly two things. I need to specify where and what I want to write. So where is WordPress get nonce.php. And then I want to write my PHP, so I'll do the standard opening of PHP. And now I can move to writing the code. So again, I need to require once WP load. Okay, here. And so now what we can do is we can just return a response. So we can echo, we can do JSON and code. Okay, and now we can do an array. Okay, and I need the X. I'll just copy it over, but it's the XWP nonce WP create nonce, like the typical way you would get a nonce. So what this does is it just encodes back this as a response, and I did it in this way so it matches exactly the request header, so I don't need to deal with it later. And as I mentioned previously, we need to use fetch cookie instead of regular fetch so that our cookies get stored. We are close to time, so I'll start copy pasting stuff because I really want this to finish and I want to get at least a few minutes for Q&A. So response, cookie fetch, again, using the request handler to get access to the script. And because I copy pasted this, my name is wrong. So now the request is going to off to our newly created script, and it's going to return back the JSON response, which would be a valid header. Before I forget, to get a valid cookie and a valid nonce, you need to actually have a valid user, because in this code would return the nonce for an anonymous user. So we just need to await a login. And then PHP, and username is admin. OK, that should be it. And the test is now going to fail. Why is it failing? Because I just wanted to prove a point. And that's, so this is now the passing test, which accepts the headers and then passes the headers over in the request. And I'm still here using regular fetch. And the regular fetch doesn't have access to the cookie store. So if I replace this with this custom fetch implementation, that's it. And yeah, you can see success true, message high. So we now tested the REST API endpoint, which is for an admin user only. So we confirmed that the security works. We confirmed that we can pass off our data and that we can get a valid response without mocking anything or without compromising security during testing. And I'll stop here. I wanted to show you a few more things. So I'll just briefly mention, as David mentioned at one point, so if you would now run multiple tests, like if you test the API endpoint multiple times, you would just start accumulating data in your database. And then eventually you're going to come to a point saying, OK, like, let me check how many messages are stored in the database because I want to actually see that there are messages in the database. And you will get like, oh, there's 5 messages, and I just ran like this within test once because the database is persistent between tests, so you keep accumulating data. There are 3 approaches to cleaning up, to doing all of this. Approach number 1 would be change before all to before each. Playground loads every time. That means that each of your tests takes 1 second longer. If you have 5 tests, you're probably OK. But if you have a bigger amount of tests, you don't want that. What you can do is then you can add before each, and then just, let's, for example, in this case, the messages are stored in an option. You can just delete the option. That's what I wanted to show. There's a third way of doing this, which we definitely won't have time for, and that's there inside the CLI. Can I show this quickly? Help. Inside the CLI, there's the 3 options I initially mentioned, and one of them is build snapshot. So what you can do is you can, before all, build a snapshot of your site. That means that it's going to install WordPress, run your blueprint, mount all of your stuff, so like prepare the entire environment. And then between every request, you can actually reload Playground, which is extremely quick, but you won't get like all of the setup stuff that are actually taking a long time. So that's probably the best way to go if you have a bigger amount of tests. But sorry, unfortunately, not this time. And that's it. Thank you, everyone. OK. Oh. Let me get up. Let me get back to the slides. So yeah, if you have any questions, we have still a few more minutes. If you want to find me, it's the one with the face. And if you want to check out Playground, which I hope you do, go to the other one.
Thank you for your presentation and everything. Like, I need to ask that in our setup we have the network sites. So we have multiple websites in one, parent site, and we have multiple child sites. So if we are going to test in multiple sites and we are going to save in database, then it will be too much load on the database. Like, is there any way so that we can go on, like we can save the test on log file or something like that, that we can check it later, and also it will be not too much data, like it would, on the database it will not be saving.
I'm interested. So you have a multi-site.
Sorry?
A multi-site when you say
multi-site, yeah.
Okay, so we can still load the multi-site.
But we want to test it all in one, like it's in the network.
So it takes like all subsites.
Yeah.
That means you need to first import your probably a portion of your database, not the entire thing. So again, I would go for building a snapshot and then reusing that snapshot between tests. And yeah, then you can just like do a for each and then like for each of the sites. And before the for each, you can use PHP to get access, to get a list of all of your sites, so you know what you actually need to test. So yes, technically it's completely possible. The Node version is on a machine running, so it has so you can actually like you have space, you have like resources. It's not the browser, so you can load a bigger database.
My question is that we can save the messages in log file somewhere so that.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
not in the database.
So you can use the regular debug log.
Sorry?
You can use the regular debug log.
Okay.
And you can just you can just error log messages into the debug log. To get access to the debug log, you would mount it.
Yeah.
So you would create a debug log file on your machine. You would mount it to WP content, and everything would be saved.
Yeah.
If you want to write logs from Playground, you can do what I did here. You can just write a file and then just add to that file.
Okay. Okay.
And sorry, I promised you CI. I promise it's running in the background, but we won't have time. In the project, there is workflow for the actions, and you can see how it's running there.
Can we run unit testing with Playground?
Yes, you can. So the initial example where I showed you how to run like a function call in PHP, that can technically be a unit test. Right. Again, I just don't think that if you're using PHP unit right now, that you should switch over to Playground. Like there's no benefit from it. But if you're not running it, yeah, then why not?
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. So the end result of all of this, I should have said that initially. So there's two branches. You checked out the start branch. There's a main branch. The main branch has the final result. And the blog post has the way how to get there. And also, if we don't have time, I'm around here. Just find me. I'm happy to talk about Playground as much as you want to. Okay, and we're good. Thank you. Thank you.